Although folks, usually the launch of a new expansion's alpha tends to arrive out of the blue for most of us, with just a day or two's vague coming soon notice via a developer blog or Wowcast episode. But it turns out that for Mindight, the launch is getting a bit more of a fanfare, with the public announcement of the official launch date of the alpha, which will be starting next Thursday, October the 2nd. This was accompanied with what is effectively a 5-week release timetable for the various phases of testing. Phase testing isn't unusual for an alpha, but Blizzard committing to specifics so publicly definitely is. And in this week's news update, I'm going to be taking a look at what has been revealed, along with how the alpha access works in practice. Back in the run-up to Gamescom, when Blizzard originally announced that Mindight would get its full reveal there, we were promised an opening night deep dive with executive producer Holly Longdale, creative director Chris Metzen, and game director Ian Hazzikostas. This particular event was subsequently very quietly dropped in favour of what turned out to be a much more fragmented approach, which at the time of Gamescom received a lot of very justified criticism from the community. It appears that Blizzard have taken this criticism on board and have decided to, in effect, take another swing at things, with the alpha launch being preceded next Wednesday with a new developer deep dive introduced by Chris Metzen and Ian Hazzikostas. Now, if you manage to follow all of the Gamescom panels and developer interviews, I suspect that this deep dive broadcast won't have much, if anything, that will be new to you. But given how difficult it was to actually manage to follow everything from Gamescom, I still think that it's very likely that this could still offer one or two surprises for many people. And no matter what, Chris Metzen is a great storyteller. So even if you're confident that you know everything, I think that this is still very likely to be well worth a watch. One big question that I personally have is if this event will also offer another cinematic. While we saw the main intro cinematic for Mindight at Gamescom, it is not uncommon for the pre-launch period for a World of Warcraft expansion to offer multiple cinematics. And that would be a very good way to create a fresh publicity splash for Mindight. This broadcast is scheduled for 9 AM Pacific time, which is 5 PM British Summer Time or 6 PM Central European Summer Time, and it will be on both Twitch and YouTube. I'll link to both of the World of Warcraft channels down below. We don't know how long this broadcast will last, but it is going to be immediately followed by the first developer question and answer session that's open to the public to submit questions since BlizzConline in 2021. The Q&A session, which is scheduled to last an hour, will see Ian, Associate Game Director Paul Kubit, and Design Director Maria Hamilton face Community Manager Randy Jordan, better known as Kyvax, as he asks them questions that have been submitted by the World of Warcraft community. These community question and answers often throw up unusual questions and can be a great source of new announcements and fresh details. And barring any new cinematics, this will likely be the main highlight of the day's broadcast. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what new community memes Ian manages to unintentionally serve up to us. If you have questions to put to the team, you can do so via Reddit or the official World of Warcraft forums. And again, I'll have links to those in the description below. Schedule allowing, I plan to do a live stream of both of the broadcasts to share my initial reactions, both here in YouTube and on my Twitch channel, which I'll link below. And if you want to keep up to date on any changes to my plans, I also have my social media links below. Now, moving on to the alpha itself, and if you're not familiar with the process, World of Warcraft expansion alphas and betas are sadly invite only. As with the War Within, purchases of the Epic Edition of Mindight will benefit from guaranteed access to the beta. But if you'd like to also have a chance to get an invite to the alpha, there is a special sign-up page, which again I'll include in the links below. Don't be put off by the invite page saying it's for beta. This sign-up list is being used for both the alpha and beta invites, which are generally issued in multiple weekly waves. So don't give up on it if you don't get into the week 1. And as that page implies, it is theoretically possible for people who don't purchase the Epic Edition to get an invite to alpha or beta. And those people who do get into the alpha do get to keep that access when the testing process moves into the beta. There's a very widespread perception that the alpha is just for streamers and YouTubers. But while it is true that the bigger content creators generally do get automatic week 1 or 2 access, ordinary players do also get invited. I myself have had week 3 or 4 access to previous alphas, well before I took up content creation. The truth is that you just don't see those players because, well, obviously, they're not streaming it. Now, one thing to be aware of if you do get access to the alpha or the beta is that Blizzard's approach is very different to that of many other games companies, which tend to treat betas as early access or a fully polished playable demo. Instead, these are genuine tests, and so you can expect bugs, crashes, instability, and the servers being offline for sometimes days on end, so do be careful to manage your expectations. No matter if you do or don't get access, the start of the testing cycle means the first opportunity to start to discover all the fine details of the new expansion that don't get announced. Week 1 of the alpha, which is always will be the one that gets the most attention, will be focusing in Eversong Woods, player housing, our new Delve companion Valera Sanguinar, the first round of class update, along with the new Demon Hunter spec, professions updates, and a new story feature described as Argentina, that as far as I'm aware is something that we've not heard anything about so far. I'm pretty interested to hear what that will turn out to be, but even more interesting than that though is player housing. Well, thanks to the early developer previews, we know quite a bit about player housing. Until now, the exterior of the housing zones and external customizations have been kept under tight wraps, and I personally cannot wait to get a first look at those. And I suspect I won't be alone in looking for an early opportunity to start scoping out, even if just remotely, my preferred housing plot. Beyond all of that, the early renders of Eversong Woods and Silver Moon that we have been shown have looked spectacular, and I'm excited to get a broader look at the new zone. And with some previous hints of possible simplification to professions, those of us who are interested in the game's economy will be wanting a closer look at that as well. Phase 2 will see us heading into Zulaman, along with the associated dungeons and delves, followed in week 3 with Harinder and a return to Eversong Woods, along with a first look at the new built-in possible replacement for DBM and Bigwigs. Phase 4 will open up Voidstorm, along with the new open world PvP zone Slayer's Rise and the new 40v40 Battleground version, along with the new Apex talents that every specialisation will be getting. And the final, Phase 5, will see the launch of max level open world content and Profession Sparks, most likely meaning that this will be the first look at how crafted gear will be playing out in Midnight, along with the return of all of the previous zones. Basically meaning that I suspect the entire expansion open world content will be fully opened up. Now, given the schedule, I suspect that the Midnight Alpha is going to be very similar to Dragonflight's, where players were limited to a single zone at a time, with the rest of the game being walled off before it all fully opens up once we arrive in Phase 5. Both the Dragonflight and War Within Alphas lasted about 7 weeks, so don't be misled by that schedule into thinking that we'll see beta in week 6. I'm personally predicting that it'll be a mid-November date for the launch of the beta. Now, if you're wondering at the lack of any mention of the raids or Mythic Plus, that's pretty normal. Mythic Plus and raid testing tends to have its own schedule and takes place much closer to the pre-patch release. And that's usually also the case for the bulk of class tuning and updates, which unfortunately means that the question that many of you will be asking, which is which class is best, is something that nobody will know the answer to until the last couple of weeks before the expansion launches. Another area that will be getting more attention than usual is, I suspect, add-ons, with Blizzard having teased the possibility of restricting some combat add-ons capabilities. It is worth saying that pretty much every new expansion initially breaks the majority of add-ons until the authors can update them, so don't panic and jump to conclusions if your favourite add-on doesn't work at first. Once the add-on development community get a chance to dig into the changes, I'm sure that they will quickly figure out what, if any, restrictions there actually are in practice, and I suspect that many of the bigger add-on creators will be making their own announcements on how their add-ons will be affected. If there are any add-ons that you're especially worried about, then I would recommend following that add-on's author's social media or joining their Discord if they have one, as that will be the best way to get accurate information in all of this. But I'll also be covering the broader picture once I'm happy that we do have an accurate read in it all. The launch of the alpha has been a few weeks earlier than I'd personally predicted, and this does mean that I'm updating my prediction for the beta's launch. And this does make me a lot more confident in my late February, early March prediction for Mindight, with a slightly longer than usual beta thanks to overlapping with the Christmas and New Year holiday fortnight. No matter what, the lull for World of Warcraft news is now coming to an end, and there's going to be a lot to share and talk about in the coming months. I'll be here with my regular Saturday news updates, along with plenty of deeper dive guides as things progress. So if you aren't a subscriber, this is a great time to hit that button along with the bell icon to make sure you find out whenever a new video goes live. But in the meantime, the live game and Season 3 is still powering along very nicely, and I do have a few quickfire updates from the game to share. If you've been unlucky enough to have been stuck permanently one level behind in that all-important Manaforge Vandals Raid Renown track, this should now have been fixed with the announcement of a fresh hotfix which tries to resolve the issue. This fix does have a slightly strange side effect in that it may leave you with a small amount of extra reputation overlapping into the following week's tier. Blizzard in the update did clarify that this is expected to be a permanent state of affairs, but sadly that does not mean that the weekly cap in Raid Renown is being removed. Now, if it's been a while since you last visited Brewfest, this year may well be the time to drop by, as it's had a bit of a mini makeover. The old half-hourly invasions have been replaced by a brand new world event. This event is heavily inspired by the Tusker Soup event and allows you to choose between gathering materials for the cooks, preparing the food, or serving it up to guests. This event lasts about 6 minutes, at the end of which a rare spawns, which upon defeat grants you up to 3 reward bags. These bags offer a bunch of the holiday currency, Brewfest tokens, along with a chance at getting some brand new transmog appearances. There's also new transmog sets on the vendor, giving you plenty to spend that Brewfest currency on, and the old Corrin Dire Brew dungeon event has a chance to drop a really cool looking brand new mount. This mount can only drop from your first attempt account wide each day, but will likely have a much better drop chance compared to the older mounts, which also still do have a chance to drop if you'd never received them. Other updates to the event include the barrel racing and skyriding daily quests moving from Valdraken to the Brewfest areas in Ironforge and Orgrimmar, and a new energy bar for the ram racing mount, which replaces the awkward to follow green, yellow, red buff and makes it much easier to manage your speed. And most importantly of all, thanks to a midweek hotfix, the Brewfest currency tokens are now warband wide. Given how many tokens we need for the new transmogs, this is a very welcome change, and hopefully one that the developers will also apply to the other holiday event currencies, which have until now felt very much like a weird outlier exception to the Warband's account-wide everything mantra. Brewfest is live until 10 AM server time on Thursday the 9th of October, so there's plenty of time to catch up if you missed the start. And finally, staying on the subject of holiday events, this coming Thursday the 2nd of October also marks the start of the Harvest Festival holiday event. This has always been, in my view, the weakest of the full-size holiday events, having just a single one-off quest to honour either Uther the Lightbringer or Grommash Hellscreen, depending on your faction, along with tables set outside Stormwind and Orgrimmar offering stacks of health food and mana drinks. Those foods automatically scale with your character's level and were super useful for leveling alts with low self-sustain, especially at the start of expansions, but with the addition of the new recuperate ability for every class, they probably aren't so worthwhile now, though that mana could still be handy for healers. And this does make me think that this is an event that is a bit overdue a revamp. Given Brewfest got some love this year, I'm personally not expecting Harvest Festival to get a revamp this year, but you never know, so it could still be worth dropping by at least once to see. And that's it for this week's update. I'd love to hear your thoughts on next week's reveals and the alpha test. Have you submitted any questions for the Q&A? And what would you like to discover from the alpha when it goes live? Let me know down below. If you found this update helpful, entertaining, or even just plain annoying, then let me know by hitting that like icon. And if you want to support my channel to grow and help me to make more of these videos along with my other content, then hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. And if you don't want to miss out whenever I release a new video, then as well as subscribing, you can follow me in social media for updates. My link's in the description below as well. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.